Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline Studio. I'm Sybille Muschik. Behind the camera is Joshua Blanc. Today I want to clarify a little bit about mediums. I had this question on one of the YouTube videos. And they asked about our glazing medium. I use it to thin paint with so that you have a more transparent background. And this is a Liquitex glazing medium, and I don't use it quite as much. It's really very similar to the other one. I just find this a little bit more difficult to work with. I like this one because you can just turn the little nozzle. Thank you, Josh, and close it again, and it works every time. So it's good. So this is the golden satin glazing liquid. Now it's a slow drying extender for acrylic colors. And I should talk about what acrylic is. It's a polymer, which means it's a plastic. And the molecules of plastic are linked together like a little grid. This is what makes them pliable and strong. But of course, if you break that bond, then your paint, if you're using paint, will actually break apart. That happens when you have too much water mixed with your acrylic paints. So this is why I use a satin glazing liquid. It just extends the paint. You can only use 30% water with acrylic before that bond starts to break. Now, just to illustrate, this is just a little plastic, I think it was for onions or something like that. And you can see it's the same kind of idea where all these little units are together, and that's how polymers work. They're all sort of bonded like that. Now, if you break it, it's like doing this, cutting a piece off, and it becomes brittle, and it doesn't work anymore. So I hope that explains it in an understandable way. All right. Now, you're going right back to basics. Our paints are made from minerals and chemicals, and they come usually in a powdered form eventually, especially if you have minerals. And it's just like our pan pastels, where this is basically just pigment mixed with a tiny bit of I'm not sure exactly what they mix with it, but and I better not say, but that's something you can research. And it's just powder. Could be a clay form. I'm not 100% sure. So, and that's what happens. Now you can add water to that. And it will actually create some kind of a nice flow to it. So that can work with that. But that's basically what, and then they add the polymer to this, powdery form. And in terms of other mediums like watercolor, it's scum arabic, which is sort of like a sugar solution, or glycerin, and probably a bit of both. And glycerin is just a fatty acid that's you can actually eat glycerin. It's used in cakes and all sorts of food things. So that gives you the nitty-gritty on the basics of colors and how they're made. So today we're talking about squares. Now I put a little grid on my gel plate here. Yeah, we always dropping stuff off the ends here. Anyway. And we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? And saying we should, do something hilarious when that happens. But I can't, for the life of me, think of anything at the moment except laugh. Okay, now our squares, like I said, this was sort of an onion container, and it works great. It's always good to use recycled materials for gel plate printing and art in general. There's so much of it around, why not give it a second life, and maybe it'll be famous like, you know, some of the Picassos, like the handlebar became a, what was it, a bowl or something, the horns. We're going to just roll some transparent paint over this, and then we're going to put make a transfer just using some type. I'm using this as a background. Most of these square things that we're going to do today have to do with backgrounds. So let's get into it, have a lot of fun, and let's roll out some paint here. I already have some glazing liquid, and I'm just going to roll it right over top of this grid thing. All I want is a transparent background. Now, I don't have a lot of medium, so it's breaking up a bit on the plate, but that's okay. We're just creating something interesting. And we'll just print that directly. Okay. And I won't register it. This is not going to be a wonderful piece. It's just going to be a background. It may just be torn to pieces, you know, for card making and stuff like that. So our Beren as usual. And that's all to the good. Okay. I'm going to take this off. We're also going to do, just in case this one turns out better, we're going to do a ghost print. Sort of hedge your bets. Yes, I think it's a little lighter, so that's good. So there we are. That's our little grid. We'll use that for something else later. So the first transfer we're going to do is going to be some type. And just have a couple of sheets from a glossy magazine. And we'll see how that transfers. I'm going to keep it very light. We'll start with our glazing liquid. Just to cover, I'm going to be using a high flow acrylic. And the high flow is it's high pigment, but it is also very liquid. And it tends to bead unless you have, you know, a good base. And I want to keep it very transparent. This is quinacridone liquid, nickel azo gold. And our 8x10 gel plate. Just rearing off here on the side. So we'll set this down. Now, in previous episodes, we've talked about the process of transfers. So if you go back 2 or 3 episodes where we're doing transfers, I talk about it some more. We won't go into it as much today. Okay, so you just want to make sure there's resists the, and see if we get some type. Looks not too bad. Very nice. Okay. I don't know if we need to dry this to release it. Oh well, we're good at living dangerously. It's still quite liquid, you see, so. And I don't actually, there's always copyright issues with taking things out of magazines, so I don't actually want you to be able to read it, but I want it to get the feel that there is something typewritten there. All right. Yes, and there is. And we get our nice squares in the background, which is our theme for today. And boy, I can actually read the occasional word, but you'll never know what magazine or what place it came from. I'm now going to add some black to the plate. Yeah. Whoa.
Oh my goodness.
That's a rude noise.
That was off the scale.
That was off the scale. Oh, poor Josh. He has to adjust all. Oops, fuzzle. Right. He has to adjust the sound so that people's delicate ears aren't inundated with terrible noises. Okay, same routine as always for transfers. You don't need too much paint, you need just the right amount. We're doing a transfer of one of my photographs. I have adjusted this particular photograph. It was of, okay, Josh will explain this. Josh, you're up.
Oh goodness, well, some industrial refuse anyway. Not quite sure what those are exactly, but some long pieces of metal with square holes in them.
Yeah, Jim was saying something about treads, that they might be treads for something. Anyway, they had squares in them and they were very interesting. Look for this kind of stuff, you know, hunt through, you know, old piles of, you know, old car bodies, and who knows, you know, you might come across something really fantastic like we did. And it looks really good. So, I think just to be on the safe side, I mean, we could transfer it directly to that, but I want a little bit more color. So what we're going to do is make sure it's totally dry, and this time we'll roll some colors out. So we're going to take a lovely interlude. So if we've dried the plate and it's looking good, I'm going to roll out some, this is Amsterdam paint, and it's Prussian blue. Right. Now again, less is more. And we're going to use some transparent red iron oxide. Everything, I want everything transparent in this case, otherwise it'll obscure our photograph. And I just want to show you the photograph before we start. This is what we've done. And see our squares? That's what was interesting. Right, so rolling out. I wanted the nickel azo gold at the top here. And we're running it with a little bit of the darker color. And it's sort of on the greenish side because we're mixing a bluish color with a yellow. I'm not too worried about edges in this case. We'll be trimming it all off anyway. Okay. Here's the scary part. This is where the art gods, you know, are watching over you and either going to laugh at you or going to say, okay, this is a good day, you can have it. All right, our big reveal. Oh, and it's quite lovely. like it when it turns out. We had a little fuzzle here in the middle, but it's okay, I can touch that up later. So that's the imagery, and it's come out quite nicely. And it's a bit shiny, so I'm not sure the camera can pick it up, but we'll be posting as usual at the end of the video all the different images. Now you could stop it there and use it for a background for something, or you can define it some more with pen and ink, other colors, colored pencil. It's all fair game. We just don't have time for all of that in the video, but I just want to encourage you to do multimedia. It's really where it's at right now. Okay, now we're just gonna do a little interlude. We're gonna clean the plate, and then we're going to go on to more backgrounds using squares as our subject matter. So another background, and we're going to use my trivet. Look around your house for interesting stuff, and you'd be surprised what has, the patterns that you're looking for. And I've also done, this is, I think it was a chicken breast or something. Yeah, well, you use what you have on hand, and I did wash it very carefully. Anyway. So then we roll out paint, a little bit of medium. Still working with our fluid acrylics. And it's pretty light, so we're going to add a fair amount of color to that yet. So we have quinacridone burnt orange. Now most of the quinacridone colors are transparent. It's a good idea to run a little swatch for yourself. And we'll do the nickel azo gold up here. Sometimes, actually usually it does give you whether it's transparent or not. But for your own peace of mind, I would run a swatch. Do your little grids and squares and do your exercises for that. It's all worthwhile. I've done numerous ones in past years, and I could probably do them in my sleep. But if you're a beginning painter, then take the time to do all that kind of thing. Okay. So we're going to just do bits and pieces of this. And I'm going to do it at an angle. It's more interesting. You can really play with patterns and shapes doing this kind of stuff. Right. Maybe we'll reserve this one for later. And we're just going to print our background first. And again, I think our ghost print is going to be the one we use. The first layer is often just a bit much. And for transfers, if you're doing a background at all, you want to keep that really thin. Oh, it's not bad. And I think ghost print is not going to do it. We can run it, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to do it. I'm just using good quality Hammermill acid-free photocopy paper. Bright white. See, there's not much here and not enough interest to... There you go. Right, we're going to leave that on there. and then do our black. It really does make the rudest noises, honestly. Yeah, I can see it now. Josh will record that and put it in, you know, one of his musical pieces.
The uncooperative paint song.
Yeah, exactly. It'll go viral for sure. Okay, we have a fuzzle. Don't want fuzzles. Okay. Here's our image. These squares are, it's a boat launch, and it's fall, so we have a bunch of fall leaves, and we'll see how this thing transfers. Lovely squares. Not your usual squares. And that's what artists try and do, is to, you know, show their vision, their unusual ways of working. Okay. I'm not sure the background worked all that well. Don't forget, this is a color copy, so, and I'm not too worried about it. I think it's really dry already, so we're just going to run the final colors. And because we're basically using, this one is more about just the shapes, we might just forget about the transfer, and it might show up a little bit in spite of what I'm saying, because it's hard to see right now. So burnt orange will be good. And that's probably not enough. And we're going to put some gold on there. But we need to put medium in the gold. And yes. And I think it runs transparently with the rest of it. So we're getting quite festive here. It's not that far from Christmas. Okay, see what happens anyway. Ooh, love it already. Now, up to now with our geometrics, I've pretty well said, you know, to keep them without overlaps, because that sets up a whole different thing, and we'll get into that in future videos, because the next things we're going to work on are combinations. So at this point, we're just going to be doing squares that are not overlapped too much. Just slop it on there. It should be a nice grid. And of course you got all this paint on there, so, you know, use it on another piece of paper. And we're having some overlaps here, but you can still see our grids quite nicely. And then we're going to do a central image. And what's laid is played. Even though it, yeah, well, wonky is interesting. And then I'm just going to do some odd ones here and there. You can play with this kind of thing to your heart's content. So in these we have obscured the background squares, and then the squares on this little plastic thing are very discreet. I kind of like this one just the way it is, and I might just stamp on it, you know, with the darker directly. So let's leave that aside for a bit, and let's just run it clean from the start here. You are allowed to change your mind on things. You are the artist. It's your work. You do what you need to do, right? Don't ever hesitate to change track if need be. Ah. Oh, it's looking very exotic. And I don't know if you can see the gold shimmer, but it's quite lovely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink this just with our paints. I think black would just be too stark, so we're going to use Payne's Gray. So I've stopped to clean my brayer a bit. Don't forget that, you know, these mediums are very much like glue. And I put a little bit more gold on the plate. And we're going to run this on my little homemade texture plate. And it's just a styrofoam plate. And I think we need just a wee bit more color of some kind. I want it to stand out from the background. And maybe we'll use an opaque color since we don't have to worry about transparency anymore. And just got carried away a little bit here. Okay. Now you could stamp this off on another surface just to, and I think I might do that just to see how it prints. It's not bad. A little gloppy. Okay. We can do a different color on that one. And now we have a central image. Quite nice. You can do an offset slightly, run a darker color, and then offset it ever so slightly. Let's do that. Our dark blue. We will clean the brayer, we just do it. And that will create a shadow effect. So line it up and then shift it ever so slightly. And then push it. Now you can, I have little square gel plates. You can do it with that as well. But this will work. And that's the effect I want. So it still has the gold in it. When it dries, it's going to be quite sparkly. You could do more like these corner pieces, but sometimes, you know, a central image is quite attractive. And I would probably crop to make it a little closer in. Okay, so use it however, maybe for a card. You could put type on the sides or bottom. Could be interesting. So let's run that on our original piece. And this one I might just do the You just want to really push it down. Ooh, that printed nicely. Okay. On a roll here. So maybe some of these corners. Yes. And this reminds me of something, maybe a child's game or something. And of course you'll crop the edges, right? So maybe a windmill, a Dutch windmill, sort of like that. So pretty well ran out of ink there. We can redo a little bit. Just a hair of paint. Okay, and we can offset that slightly. Ooh, that's nice. Okay. I'm not sure the offset shows, but you get the idea. So play with this. So much fun. I thought squares were going to be stodgy and boring, and you know, we'll have to really slog through this particular exercise. But it's been quite a lot of fun and interesting. So as always, we'll post it at the end. These are backgrounds, you know, meant to be embellished by many other things. So if you try this, shoot me a post on Shoreline Studio to show me your images. That's a Facebook site, and that's my page. So, and any questions you have, go to Shoreline Studio, and it's all good. And have fun with it. Take care of yourselves and your families as always. Enjoy the season because it's beautiful out there. Lots of leaves to print and do some artwork with, and try squares. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.